I'm here with head coach Christy Martin of Saints Women's Basketball. Coach, it's been a long summer, long offseason. I know we're excited to see you back out on the court. How do you prepare the team in the offseason when they're not on campus and you have a couple new faces coming in? How do you do your job in the summer and get the team ready to go when the school year starts?
I think just having a strength coach was so important for us, and Kylie did a remarkable job with setting up our program, and the girls followed through with it this year really well. So I felt like we did an excellent job just over communicating with the players and trying to keep in better touch and just trying to get them as motivated as we are for the season.
And this year you have a great base to work around, a young core in Sanaya Simpson-Patu, the freshman of the year, the first in school history, and you have McKenna Schultz, who we saw her light up the scoreboard multiple times. What does a base like that allow you to do going forward into this year, knowing you have playmakers on both sides of the ball?
Well, I think the biggest thing we were looking for was just to come back in with some size. I mean, we lost two big post players last year, and so we added a fair amount of 4s and 5s. And now, for the first time in my career, I'm looking out at a team that has more post players than guards, and so that was the focus going into this season. Was we really need to get some people around them that can play with their back to the basket, defend in the post, and really help with our rebounding deficits. So that was our main focus, was just getting some bigs in there to complement our great players.
And kind of touching on some of those new incomers, you have 6 new faces on the roster this year. How do you incorporate them into the culture that you started to build last year? How do some of the returning players kind of fit into that and help bring in the newcomers and make them feel like they're at home?
I think our returners do a remarkable job with our freshmen. I have lots of conversations with our freshmen and how they're being treated, and they just really look up to our leadership and our upperclassmen. I think that in terms of like having that whole thing mesh, we did it before they got here. So we were looking for players that would fit our culture. So they have to be gritty, they have to be tough, they have to be intense, they have to be competitive. Those were really important for us. So we passed in a lot of players that were fantastic, but didn't necessarily fit our culture. So in terms of bringing players in and having them understand the culture, I felt like we really brought players in who already had that instilled in them. Now there's other things we need to sharpen, but for the most part I feel like the team has meshed quite well. And obviously we do a lot of the team retreats and team bonding and community service, and so all those things help to bring teams together.
The GNAC this year, a lot of question marks all over the board, but still a lot of teams capable of making deep runs in the tournament like we saw last year. It's going to be one of the toughest conferences again in the country. How do you start preparing the girls today for a grind all season and hopefully a trip to Western Washington in March for the GNAC tournament? How does that process and that work ethic start today?
We just have to constantly communicate that we have to be tough. We tell them every day that we need to be the toughest team in the GNAC, and in order to do that, we have to have tough practices, competitive practices, just having that mental mindset that going into it might be a grind at some time, but then having deliberate time off. So we give them time off after a long road trip, or if they need to have a break and maybe do yoga. We do those kind of things and just to help keep their bodies as healthy as possible.
And you got to experience for the first time last year Marcus Pavilion, and you know how loud it can get inside this arena when it gets packed. And when we saw the culture that you brought in really seemed to connect with the fans and a lot more engagement. What's it like to play in front of this community and this fan base on a nightly basis, and how much of an impact does that make on your team? How much do they feel that when they're on the court?
It's so fun when you have spectators who are invested. and they care if you win or lose, and they're coming up to you before and after the game. I have alumni that stop in my office, ask me so many different questions about the season and this player and that player. So having people that care as much as you do about where this program's going, I mean, it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. I love it so much, and having that amount of support is incredible. I mean, Marcus Pavilion, it rocks in here. Our Western Oregon game at the end of the season was one of the funnest environments I've ever been in as a coach. And so, just keeping it going and hoping that we can increase our attendance and get more people bought into what we're doing. And we just love the support, and we appreciate it greatly.
Well, I know I'm not the only one who speaks for. We're excited to see you back on the court. It's been a long summer, it felt like. We're excited for Saints basketball. Coach, thanks for stopping by.
Thank you.